That's like my innovation. I do rule at the end of class, so people don't just walk out. All right, so okay, so today I'm gonna talk about forms and events. Okay, let's do this. Do you guys want me to go over my solution to the homework, or do you not want me to do that? You do want me to do that. Okay, so let's do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. Okay, that's somebody else's stuff. So is this. Yeah. Nope. Okay. My solution. 1 second. All right. All right. So once again, it's one solution. It's not the solution. There's probably many ways to do this. See, look, I didn't even. God damn it. All right. Yeah. All right. So. All right. You can all access this, by the way, by going to my GitHub account. Once again, for those of you who don't know, GitHub is just a place where you store code for various purposes. I have a repo here. Oh, I'm involved in so much stuff. Oh, this one, right. Wow, it was like 3 weeks ago. I put it onto a branch called Solutions, so if you switch to that, you can see it. So let's step through this. I mean, I guess I could show you, I could confirm to you that it does indeed work. I should probably do that. Just don't take my word for it. Bam. There it is. See? Empty, not empty. Okay, so let me just walk you through what I did. Can everybody see this? Maybe make it a little bigger, huh? Okay, a lot bigger. All right. Wait, is this the right? Yes. Okay. Cool. So I didn't really change this stuff too much. The stuff at the top, just because it works. There's no need to like go crazy with this stuff. I probably could have used my convenience method for these, but I think this is clean looking and nice. One thing I noticed is that I kept creating elements that had a bunch of attributes, right? Like an ID and a class, like the for attribute. Here, 1 second. Let me open them up. Like, so many attributes, right? All this stuff, like ID, a class, and then these things have ID, for, class, type, more classes. Like, it's just a lot of stuff. And so one thing I thought is like, okay, it'd be cool to make a function that just creates these elements for me. So the first thing I came up with was this, make element, right? And what you do is you pass into it the type of the element that you want to create, and then an object of attributes. When I say an object, like hopefully you remember what that means, but you probably don't. No offense. But an object might look like this. So let's make it a little bigger. ID, thing, right? That's an object. It's just we call this a key and a value. In this case, the key is it could be class, it could be ID, it could be type, it could be whatever. Then the value is just the value of that attribute. So create the element here. So if I pass in input here, it will create an input, right? So it's kind of the same as this up here, right? Create element section, except I'm dynamically creating it based on what you pass into here, right? So it's more generic. Then these next two lines are a little complicated. We haven't even explored this one yet, but I'll explain it as well as I can. So if attributes really just means if I don't pass in any attributes, then don't do this code because I don't have any attributes. It's just a plain element. So this would all get skipped, and basically you would just be creating an element and returning it, which might seem like, you might be like, why would I do that? The point is, like, maybe later you want to add something to all of the elements you create, but you wouldn't be able to do that if you're not using this function. So even though it's an extra step, it's a nice abstraction layer that lets you maybe add some functionality later. So, but in our case, so we're saying if attributes, right? Because if you don't pass anything into this, does anybody know what the value of this would be if I didn't pass anything to this function? Like here, you can see I'm calling make element, right? And I'm passing, what's the first parameter is a UL, right? So this create element type is going to be UL, right? And then I'm also passing in, you can see this in object, right? This syntax might look a little strange, let it soak in a little bit. This is the key, this is the value, key, value. And if I didn't pass in this thing here, if I just did, make element UL, then this attributes would be set to undefined, right? Which is kind of like false, except it's even more false. There is no value there. So that would evaluate to false, and this would get skipped. Now this is kind of tricky. Does anybody know? Remember? Does this look familiar from somewhere? Like we talked about for loops, right? But when we talked about for loops before, it was more generic. It was like, remember, we create an iterator, and then we initialize it, like for var I equals 0, while I is less than whatever, and then I plus plus. That's one way of doing a loop. This is a special kind of for loop, and it only works on objects. So the way this works is, the syntax is, this attrib here is referring to the key. And then attributes is referring to the whole object. So basically we're saying, for every key in this object, do this. And assign, attrib, you can call this whatever. Like I could call this X or I or anything. I just chose this because it makes sense. It's I think the variable name just makes sense. So what in this case here, the first time through the loop, does anybody know what this attrib right here would be? The first time through the loop. Nope. Okay, let's go deeper. Deeper into the rabbit hole. Okay, let's create an object. Right? Man, screw that. I'm proud. I can be president. All right. So I'm going to show you how this loop construct works. I don't think my explanation there was very good at all. So we're going to say for var key, you see that used a lot in obj, we'll do console log key. Let's just see what that does, right? So let's do this. Fire up our console. We're good. Run it. Does that make sense?
Include the parameters.
No, it's just doing the name and the age. That's it. Like just literally the word name, the word age. So what type is this right here? String. Yeah, super easy question. Why are you all looking at me blankly? It's a string. These are just strings. So, okay, question. How do I get the values? Like the keys are useful, but I want the actual values. How do I do that? Shit. Okay, let's look at it this way. Let's say without this loop, how would I get the value of, like how would I access that? obj.name. Let's try that out. Who thinks this is going to work? Who thinks it's not going to work? No, come on, have faith. Have faith in yourself. Why would this not work? Why would this not work?
Because that's not a class.
What do you mean? Remember, all the dot does is get a property of an object, right? Is this an object?
Yeah, that's
Is this a property of that object?
yes.
So why would this not work? It won't not work. It totally works. This is the correct answer. You gotta have confidence. Be like, this is a computer. If you just follow the rules, it will always give you what you're expecting. It's never just gonna like, nah, I don't want to do that today. You know what I mean? It's not,
JavaScript. Yeah.
well, okay, JavaScript. Yeah, JavaScript can do some weird things, but like in this case, like this just works. Like that's a property of an object, so I can call it with a dot, and I can 1000% know that it's gonna work. Let's try it out. There it is, right? We got the string of the name og.name. Okay, cool. So we have another syntax for this. Do you guys remember? There's two ways you can write this right here. Anybody remember the second way? I'll give you a hint. It's you could call it array syntax. Okay, how do we access members of an array? Just what do we type?
Bricks.
What's that?
Bricks.
Brackets?
Bricks.
Yeah, it's all good. Brackets.
Index.
Shelly, brackets.
Yeah. Brackets and then stuff inside.
No, I want you to translate the word bracket. Damn.
I don't know what brackets is.
All right. So we have brackets, right? So how do we reference name here? Do we just type the word name? Will that work? That won't work, right? Because name is not defined. I'll just what's that? H? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna try to be. Huh? H. Okay. No, but that's close. But age, we haven't defined age, right? It's not a variable, right? How can we like?
Two.
If it were an array, we could do that. If it were an array, we could do that. You're right. I'll just give you the answer. If you're accessing an object key using bracket notation or like the array syntax, your key has to be a string. Yeah, it has to be a string. So we could just do this, right? And that's the same thing as if I were to do this, right? See, it's the exact same thing. It really has no difference. So let's fire it off and see. There it is, 3535. That was easy. The reason that these have to be strings here is you could also, let's see. Let's say I wanted to, let's say I wanted this to be called current age, right? I don't know. Now we can't have spaces in these variable names, right? That's not allowed in an object. You could have an underscore or a dollar sign. You can't have that. So you would use. You don't have to put this in a string, your object key, unless there's a space in it or some other weird character. It doesn't hurt, but like it's unnecessary mostly, so we don't need it. So yeah, that's really access like that as a string. Okay, so now we understand how to access members of an object, right? We can use dot notation. We can use bracket notation. So now let's go back to the example. Hopefully you guys, what? Understand what I'm talking about. All right, bam. Okay. Once again, we have our keys. So, how do we? Hey guys. You guys, did anybody know that? Lockdown. Shut the door. No, fine. How do we access? We got these keys. Now we know how to get the values. So how do we get the values now? Oh, I know what I'm going to do. Who's got their computer in front of them right now? We're about to get funky. Ooh, yeah. This is going to be so awesome. Oh, this is going to be so cool. I just can't believe I just thought of this. Yeah. continue. Wait, that is not the right project. Yeah, that over at Psi. Give me 1 second. Don't. Just give me 1 second. Oh, you slug. Yes. Can somebody go to the course website real quick? Yeah, click on that link, JS Fiddle. Anybody else can follow along here if they would like. So, who's driving here? Curious Cat? Who else? Anybody else can join in here. Wild Wolf, whoever. That's awesome. Wacky Whale. So who can do this? This is pretty cool, right? Okay, let's get over the novelty of this. All right, Curious Cat, you're in here. How do we change this?
There's two wacky wheels.
Well, figure it out. Wow, Wolf. All right. Yeah, I wonder how many people can we get in here? Let's everybody try to jump in. Okay, close. We got a little error here though. Let's clean that up. Maybe one at a time. I'm gonna have to ban people. Okay, let me point you guys in the right direction here, since we're all just everyone's like afraid of getting near the code here. All right, let's try this. What happens if we just do that, right? Let's just log the object. Somebody click run. I don't want to click run. At least you can do that. Okay, so when we clicked run, I mean a lot of stuff's happening here, but these two lines ran, right? The whole object was just spat out to the console. So how do we spit out the values of these different keys? Yeah, try anything. I don't even know who you are at this point. You could be anybody. It doesn't matter. Try something. Try object.age.
Why is it like that?
Is it working? What's going on? Well, deal with it.
It's different on this.
Really? Are you sure?
I think it's lagging.
Is it?
Yeah.
Am I gonna have to refresh? All right.
It's lagging.
I mean, it's kind of in beta, you know. Here, let's kill the console. Maybe that's making it run slower. Should I refresh? Is it still laggy and weird?
Like your cursor is lagging. Every time you click it, it like goes very slowly.
Oh, really? Try refreshing. Who's able to edit? Anybody? Chang, are you able to edit? No? Thinking? No thinking. Just
No
do.
thinking.
Don't think. Just do.
Just do it.
Let's try something. Let's try. Yeah. Okay. Let's.
Yay.
Sure. Key. Keys. Remember, 0 though. That's for. A key doesn't have any values. A key is just a string, right? You want to access a member of the object. Okay. we're not any closer to the solution here.
What are we trying?
Why isn't anybody typing anything here?
What are we trying to say?
We're trying to spit out the values of these keys.
Why is it?
Oh my god. Look at this.
Wow.
Anarchy.
Too many people.
Well, yet nobody's editing the only the line that matters here.
Okay.
Anybody? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but remember, a key is just a string. That's all it is.
Everyone is trying to edit it at once.
You're very close here. But like name is once again, name is nothing. Name is not defined here at all. Right? We have an object dot name, but we don't have a name. Okay, it's a string. You're trying to get the object property of a string. If you want, if you guys want, you don't have to all work on the same block here. Like you could also copy it and like do something here. Like you can work on different ones. We don't all have to work on the same.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah.
We should-
So I want basically here. I want the output to show. I want it to be Darius and 35. So the same way that if I run this now, there's errors. If I were to run this code right now, the first line would be name, and the second line would be age. I want it to just say Darius 35. So instead of showing the keys, I want to show the values. How do you show a value? Right? Hint, we did it right here. Whoa, who's down here? This is really close. You're just really close.
Wait, I guess so.
Don't just copy. I mean, that's cool. That like you're getting there. But like what if I were to do this? What if I were to go ahead and say other thing? You know what I mean? Oopsie, sorry. Shit. Well, like what if I were to do that, you know? So like if you can't just add all the things. How do we access the property of an object? Yeah, that is. But like that's only going to show us age. We want to show the current key.
On the same line or
Same line. Like instead of showing age, we want to show the current key. Mind your syntax here. It's either dot or bracket. It's not both.
which one is yours?
Whoa. This is so close. So close. The thing is, there's nothing called key on this object. There's nothing called key here. If you try it with,
go back up and add key to it?
if you added something called key here, then it would just show whatever that key was, right?
Yeah, I think so. That was what I was.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna do. Oh wait. Wait. Let me just try something. I'm gonna show you guys something. Okay, I'm gonna do var. I'll create a variable called my key. I'm gonna make it equal to name. Right? It's just a string. Right? Now, right here, instead of logging age, I'm gonna log the value of my key. What do we think this is gonna do? Because why? Why would it do that? Because my key
Equal to name.
is name, so this is actually gonna be in here, right?
Yeah.
And object name is theirs, right? So that's how we could use a variable inside of our object notation. Now, question, will this work? Will that work? It will? Why?
Because they're the same.
It actually won't work because remember, the dot is looking for a property of an object. And there is no property called my key. This syntax doesn't know that this is a variable. We're assuming that this is a member of the object, right? So this will work, but this won't. Kind of a subtle difference. So with that piece of knowledge, can somebody figure out this problem? What do we got? What do we got? Did somebody give up? Did Curious Cat give up here? Is that a solution? Is that a solution? Nice try. I think you're close. You're getting it.
I think someone is typing in the wrong place. But it keeps coming up.
Who's typing the wrong place? Stop typing the wrong place. Where are we going? Hey, can Wacky Whale like move for a second? Who is that?
I don't think we know who we are.
Oh, really? Worse. Who's? Follow this participant? What does that mean? All right. Do we have a solution here? Anybody? Ah, this one's so close. Once again, key, it's going to actually look, because it's a string, it's going to look on this for something called key. So close. You honestly, just get rid of the quotes. Just get rid of the quotes. Anybody? Whoa, whoops, I didn't shut that thing. I'm like so close to just answering it. Alright, this is taking too long. I'm gonna give you the answer. This is ridiculous. That's it, right there. Object, key. All this other stuff, no. Run it. Whoa. Alright. How do I like, turn all of you off? Yeah. And alright. So that was fun. We'll use that again later. So yeah, here we go. I'm gonna get this. Do we understand this here? Like why this works? It's just the key. Yeah. I mean, a nice way to write this might be. Actually. Yeah, like that. Right? Key, name, value there. Key, name, value.
Is it supposed to put key up there?
Where? Well, no, I did it. See?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to show like that actually works. So this is the like this loop here is only for objects. I guess you'd call it an object loop, object iterator, and yeah, that's how this works. The whole purpose of this was that we were talking about it in the context of sorry, did you need that? I mean, it's gonna be on online at some point soon, so you're lucky. So this make element function, what I'm doing here is I'm looping over this object, these attributes in the object, and I'm just calling set attribute on them. I'm saying, so for instance, I pass in an ID, and the ID in this case is whatever you pass to this function, to this make list function. Like you might pass it in, my list. That would just get sent to here, and then it would be, you basically call set attribute ID is whatever the ID is, the attribute's attribute, right? And then so I made a few of these convenience methods. I have make list, make to-do list, let's go over that in a minute, make input, because there's a bunch of inputs on this page, and so it makes sense to just like have a generic thing, right? Make edit button, make a delete button. These things are very similar. You might try to find a way to make one function called make button and kind of abstract these into that, but I think this is fine. Make section, right? Takes a title, it uses our make element to create a section, creates an H2, then we create a text node, append it, kind of do all the appending, and then just return a section. Now it's not actually putting it into the DOM, it's just creating it, so we can use it later. So here's where I'm actually adding an item input. Okay, well I guess, the actual code really starts right, really here. I mean, make a section just creates the section in the H2. Make to-do list is pretty serious. It takes in an ID. This is just a string. It takes a string and two numbers. In this case, the two numbers are the start and the end number, start and finish of the task. So this is pretty complicated here, but it's really not. It's just making a UL, right? Making a list using our make list function, which is really just calling make element, right? And then we're looping over our start and all the way to finish. So we're going from 5 to 9 in the first case, 1 to 4 in the next case. And we're creating list items, input, label, combine, and appending them all to each other. And then finally appending the list item to the unordered list. And this whole thing returns the unordered list. So that our thing at the bottom, boom, this returns a list. And then we just, we append it to the section, and then append the section to the wrapper. And that's going to show it on the page, right? So, like, you can kind of see, like, very little code here to do this, God bless, but it's all, because it's all handled in the functions. And that's like I think it's a good practice to get into. I mean, to let you know, I didn't start with this, right? Like, I started kind of writing it out, and then realized, like, if I have to write document.create element blah input one more time, I'm gonna kill myself. So I'm gonna come up here, make a function, and make my life easier, right? And then reuse it and make it generic. And that's my solution. It's available once again. Check it out. It's already getting late. If you go to is this even on the course website? Is this? It's not. Wow, irresponsible.
It's
I think it might be. Yeah. Here, I'll put it on the site real quick.
can't find this file on the beaker.
What's that?
I can't find this file on the beaker.
Yeah, go to master, change the branch.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a solution. Yeah, I bet you a bunch of people are gonna have problems with that. So you can have different, they're called branches of your code. It's kind of like different versions. So the version that we're looking at here is called the solution. So if you want to actually see this, change the branch. Somebody will forget that or screw that up, but that's okay. And then it's inside here. Well, I mean, I would like to at some point cover version control, but you know, there's only so many days. All right, so that's my solution for the what's it called? Assignment. Yeah. All right. Wow. Okay, where was I? Forms and events. All right, you guys ready? I'm so thirsty.
Yay.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
Enthusiasm.
Yay.
Forms and events. I guess I'll present, although it's pointless because I'm just gonna like jump to a fiddle at some point. Sending data, HTML forms. So like when I say forms, does everybody know what I'm talking about? Like you've all filled in a sign up form or a login form at some point, right? It's just you enter text into boxes or click something and then hit a button, right? So that's up until now we've really covered just displaying information. But obviously receiving it is a huge part of the two-way medium that is the internet. Drama. Before we start, though, because I can't just go in one direction ever, this is really cool. I found this the other day. This is awesome. It's a really concise jQuery tutorial that just like, it kind of takes you from like the most simple all the way to like complicated stuff. And it really only covers kind of the basics. So like, you know, this, select element by ID. This jQuery selector selects one element by its ID. For example, to select element blah, use blah. Like it's very concise and pretty simple. I almost prefer this to like the official jQuery docs. You can even see how this works. Damn, just like that one. Yeah, I almost prefer this to the jQuery docs, especially if you're just starting out, because it's really simple. And there's only like a few. It covers selectors and then traversing, right? And then some manipulation, and that's really it. So, yeah, it's cool. And then they have like little kind of examples and things. I think it's good to go over this stuff like in your spare time if you're not, I mean, if you're just learning this stuff, you need to kind of use some other resources. Like listening to me ramble for 2 hours on a Monday is probably not going to get you where you want to be. So yeah, check that out. It'll be in the notes. You can check it out. It's good. So right, where were we? So forms. The forms are kind of boring a little bit, so I'm going to try to make it not boring, but it will be boring a little bit. Because, I mean, really, it's kind of dry. It's like presenting a form to users and then having them enter data. And, it's not that sexy. But it's an important part of web programming. Because this is how you send data from, it's one important way that we send data from a browser to a server, right? And like without sending things to servers, we're not really doing much, right? Every time you send an email, you're posting form data. Every time you like message somebody on MySpace or Friendster, you're using a web form. So just a few simple rules. There's a tag called the form tag, right? It should enclose your form behavior. It doesn't have to, but it's good practice, and you'll see why later. You can't have forms inside of forms. Why would you even do that? It's stupid, so don't do it. There's an attribute called action that says where the form data is sent. By default, the form will just send back to itself. And then there's the method attribute. Now, when I say attributes, you guys should know what I'm talking about at this point. It would be like form space action equals blah, or method equals blah. So there's two different methods that you can send data with a form. We won't go over them now because it's functionally identical for what we'll be doing. So input, output. There's a bunch of different fields for a form. I'll go over them in a second, but input is most common. It's just text in a form. Can be used for text input, checkboxes, radio buttons, submit buttons. There's a lot of different form fields. They're also self-closing, which we'll see. Like you don't have to close your input tag. And all forms should have a name attribute because that's what the server uses to read the form data. Here's a list of like the common form elements: text, single line, text area for multi-line, password. Like when you type in on a form, you type in your password and it just shows like stars. That's using the password input. Checkbox, radio button, file upload, and a select. That's like the different form fields. Let's see here.
Input fields.
Yeah. These are what did I say?
As you use a form field.
Yeah,
Is
form
that
fields.
Same thing.
Same thing. Yeah, form
Can
fields.
I bring input fields outside of my form?
You can.
So the form.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like two different ways. I mean, the thing is, these are typically used inside of a form. I mean, they don't have to be, but it's common, and it's probably good practice to do these inside of a form.
So these attributes, attributes go after input tag.
Yeah.
And
But
we put the input tag inside of a form field
inside of a form tag
tag.
or element, either way. So the attributes I was talking about, the action and the method, those are just on form, right? Let me show you like an example of a form here. Uh-oh. So cool. Sorry, just lost it for a second. Lost the plot. All right, so this is, I'm just gonna kind of walk you through some examples of what a form would look like, right? That's a form, right? That's the most basic form you can create, right? Although I got some spaces in there, so it could be even more basic. So let me just show you the different types of inputs. Let's just see these. Okay. Text. I am text. This is a password. Password. Right? That's a checkbox. And that's a radio button. Does anybody know why these are called radio buttons? Right? Well, let me show you one interesting property of a radio button. Let's do this. Let's give our radio a name. We'll call it station. I'm going to say value equals, whatever, Hot 97. I don't know if you guys listen to the radio. I don't. Kiss FM. Q93, it's a station in New Orleans. And I don't know any other radio stations. 870 AM. All right, let's run that. Okay, so now I'm going to click on Hot 97. What's going to happen if I click on Q93 here? Bam. The reason these are called radio buttons, I don't know if you guys are probably way too young for this, but in really old cars, when there was the radio in the car, there was you press the button for a station, and then if you press another button for a station, the other one would pop out. It was old, if you ever been an old car, that's kind of how they work. So that's a radio button. You see these a lot with multiple choice questions, right? Like true or false, right? You might see a radio button. Because if you don't want to give people, if you do that with a checkbox thing, I mean, if you do this with a checkbox, it doesn't care. It's going to let you do both. So radios are good for like multiple choice values. Typically, you'll also see the label tag a lot. Name. A label is used to say what is. It's used to say what a form input is for. That's really it. You can. This is like a newer HTML5 thing. You can have a placeholder. So you would have this in here, and then if you type D, it'll just go away, and you get that functionality for free by just having this placeholder thing. That was, I don't know if you saw, that was in that homework assignment a while ago. So these are like some basic form elements. Let's go back to the lister. Whoops. Oh, okay. So we saw text. Let me show you text area. Sorry. Text area. Oopsie. Whoa, weird. Man, this like collaboration thing screws everything up. Yeah, get out of here. All right. Text area. Oh, nice. Name equals story. Let's run it. Bam. And you can see it's like a big multi-line thing, right? And you can like drag it out. And that's just, you just get that for free, right? That's by default. Now you can use CSS to style these, right? That's totally cool. So like if you want to give this password box a class and call it like, you can call it password if you want. You can call it whatever you want. Maybe we want that thing to have a 3-pixel solid red border, right? Like an idiot. Cool, you can do that. So you can style forms. It's generally considered kind of bad practice to overdo form field styling because users are expecting a certain convention when they fill out a form. So you kind of don't want to mess with it too much. There's counterexamples to this that work really well, but I think it's very safe to kind of use sort of basic form styling. Don't try to surprise people with this stuff, otherwise they're not going to fill out your form. And generally forms exist so that you can collect data or send data. So it's a good idea to keep it simple here. Another element I want to show you is called select. So sometimes if you're doing a radio button, if you have a lot of options, it's not really, like for instance, if you were going to, you know how sometimes you select the country where you're from, and it's a drop down of like every country, it's just like hundreds of items. If you were doing that like these radio buttons, that would be pretty hard to navigate, right? You'd have hundreds of things. So instead of doing that, we do a select. We'll call it state. Oopsie, ID, whatever. You don't have to give them IDs, but you can. And then in a select, there's option. Oh, shit. Nice. You can just do that. That's great. Option. Let's say Alabama. Don't ever go to Alabama. You might give it a value. Just kidding. I mean, yeah, there's really no reason. Like, no reason. Right? Am I right? Exactly. Right? Like, no reason to go. So that's, you know, and you could have multiple of these, right? You can have as many as you want. Let's run it. Oh, see this drop down? Ooh. Were there oohs? There were genuine oohs in there, right? That's awesome. Another thing you can do is you can say which one is selected by just doing that. And then it's just going to auto-select Louisiana. Yeah, don't worry. Get it? Select. That's a select. Did we have others? Did I didn't go through? What else do we need to go through? Okay. File upload. Take my word for it. It's a file upload. I think I can actually show that though. I think you just do this. I should probably know that off the top of my head, but I don't. Yeah, there we go. And then it's just choose a file. And then you can take a file. Let's do this one. Right. Of course, I can't do anything with it, but if this were an actual form, then maybe you'd have a submit button, right? Like, Oopsie. This form is really ugly, as you can tell, but so here's my submit button, right? Oops. Oopsie. That's interesting that it even let me do that. Now, it said please use post request. I talked before about two attributes on the form tag. Does anybody remember what they are? There's two attributes that, and there's more, but there's two main ones that we use. Action and method. Holy, yeah, wow, okay. So action is where the form actually goes, right? Action. In this case, we don't really want it to go anywhere. I mean, you might have a script on your server that handles this data, saves it to a database, sends an email, tweets something, takes a picture, and then like updates Facebook, right? Like but that's all happening on the server. You just send the data to it. And maybe that file is called like script.php. So you would this is where you're sending all your data. Method is, I'll say it, but I won't define it. It's the HTTP method used to send the data. There's two options here, get and post. For the sake of this, we'll just use post. There are times when you'll use get, but let's simplify for now and just post. So let's see if this actually works. Whoa, crazy. I wonder, can I post to Oprah.com? You know, I love posting to Oprah.com. Damn, worked. So I just like posted some data to Oprah.com. I doubt they'll handle it at all, you know? But it's cool. I mean, I don't know. It's something. Okay, so this is a form, right? We just created like possibly the world's ugliest form. But hopefully you get an idea of the different elements that go into a form. I mean, it's a little weird because sometimes you use input, sometimes you use text area, and sometimes you select. But they're different enough. I think it kind of makes sense, right? I think the only one that gets me is why is text area a thing? Like, why isn't it just input, type equals text area? I don't know. I think one reason might be is that you can put stuff in here. So, you know, maybe that's why, so that you can actually do that. I still think this could be done better. All right, so are we cool on form fields? These are form fields. They're your friends.
Post.
What's
the
that?
Post method just link to that address. Right?
Am I going to have to explain get and post? I think I am. Yeah, probably going to have to do that. So when you send the data to the script, to whether it's Oprah.com or whatever, there's basically two ways that you can send the data, right? If you send it with post, it sends the data it sends it as metadata, as part of the request. Like you can't actually see the data. You can't look in the URL and see that it's sending anything. If you send it as get, which looks like this, then it will add the variables like this. So name, what did I name here? Only things that are named will actually get sent. So name equals name. That would get sent as, you know, whatever I hadn't typed into that box, right? Like Darius or something like that. You know, we could actually do a real example here. Let's just do a real example. This is silly. All right. Yeah, you guys deserve better. Okay. Disregard all of that. Okay. Okay, let's just paste this ugly form, or let's make it not so ugly. Okay, paste this form into this thing. And now I'm going to post this Oh, I don't want to post. Oh yeah, I'll post. No, I won't post it over. I'll just. If you make the action empty, then it should just post to itself. You see what happened there?
Yeah, dress.
Did everybody see that? All the things that I had in here got posted. As long if they have a name in it, they get posted. Now notice, like, what is all this? What is all that? Does anybody know what those are?
Space.
It's a space, yeah. It's because you can't have a space in a URL, so it encodes those spaces into plus signs. So if ever you see a plus in a URL, it's probably supposed to be a space. So you can see, yeah, there's, I don't know what that is. State equals LA. Notice how it doesn't say the name, it shows me the value of this, right? I didn't name any of these radios, so I guess they didn't get sent, right? Did I not name them?
Station.
Station. So where's my, oh, I didn't actually pick a station. So let's pick a station in one of these things. There we go. Station, Hot 97. Usually you would label your radios and label your checkboxes. I didn't do that here. Also, if you guys are going to lay out a form, I know we've talked about Bootstrap and some frameworks. These frameworks do a really, really nice job of making forms not ugly. In fact, so if you go to Bootstrap, getbootstrap.com, to the CSS section, over here to forms, you can see they have like nice conventions for just like making things look standard. And as long as you follow their syntax, which can be a little much, but if you use it a while, you kind of get used to it. It doesn't feel like so much after that. Like you put things in form groups and make sure that your inputs have a class called form control, right? And as long as you give it that class name, they'll end up looking like fairly pretty. You can do stuff like this, make them look nice. They have a nice hover thing, horizontal forms. Text areas are like just rounded with nicer borders and better inputs and stuff. So, yeah. I mean, frameworks are a big, big help when you're doing anything to do with forms. Anything else? Yeah, there's a couple things we didn't talk about. Is you can disable a form by just having by adding the keyword disabled to it, like this right here. Another thing I didn't mention was, oh yeah, the select. There is a way to select multiple. You just add the word multiple to your select, and then you can like select multiple by holding the control. On Macs, it's the command key. On Windows, the control key. You can select multiple. This is probably one of the worst pieces of usability on the internet, right? Like, so bad. To select multiple, you have to hold down some key that, like, my grandmother would never know. You know what I mean? Like, it's just bad. But, that's the internet for you. Yeah, so that was kind of a digression, but forms. All right, so who cares about these things, right? Like, why are we doing this? Well, I don't actually have an answer for that yet. Submitting the forms. We just saw one way to submit a form, right? It wasn't this way, though. I showed you a different way. Let's put this in. So there's this input. You can do it like that. There's also another way. You can use the button tag. I like the button tag better because you have more freedom, like to put stuff inside of it. You just have to make sure you have to put that on it. And yeah, I mean, cool. But submitting. So what happens here? Data gets sent to the server. Either the way we saw it before, right? Like data gets sent in the URL. Now, when I actually hit this, you can't see it because it's happening so fast, but the page is actually like refreshing, right? Does that make sense? Like if you were to look at the console and see like, right? If I hit go, the page refreshes. It's just sending the data to the page, the same page. So that's one way to send data. Now we also talked about get and then post, right? Here, watch what happens when we send with post, okay? Here, let me get rid of all this junk. Okay, so I'm gonna send it with post. What happened? Where's the data? Is the data there? Where's the data? The data is there, trust me. It's just, let's capture these requests. Preserve the log. I'm gonna hit submit. So what happens here when I submit this? Bam! You can see down here. If this is another feature of the this inspector thing. So I went to normally we use either the elements tag to inspect, right, or we use the console, which is for some reason way at the end. I don't know why. But you could also use this thing called network, and it shows you like what happens when requests go through. And so you can see here the form data gets sent in. The name, the story, the state. Obviously, if I were to select the checkbox for radio station or a password and hit go, there it is. It all gets sent. Now, it's just being sent as metadata, right? Meaning it's not sent in the URL. It's sent as part of a request header. Like when we talked about the request and the response like months ago, but like when you request a web page, you're actually sending it a bunch of data. Like you're telling it where you came from and where you are, and if you've already been to that site before, you're sending it a bunch of information. You just aren't seeing that information get sent, right? It's like metadata. So the same way when you post data like this, it's being sent just kind of under the hood. It can be good if you have a form with maybe like sensitive information that you don't want everybody to see, it's better to do it with a post. The thing to realize is that there's really no extra security between post and get. They're basically the same. So you would never send like a password, unencrypted using a post request. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that everybody else can't. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Any questions about this? I've just been talking. You guys look like you're totally following, though. I mean, everyone who's awake looks like they're totally following. All right. Okay. So, what's next here? Yeah. So data gets sent to the server where wizards use magic to make the data do stuff. We covered that. Maybe one day that won't be magic, but for today it is. Okay. So this is the next concept that we're going to go over is important. So I bolded a bunch of key words here. Okay. So, a couple things happen when you hit submit on a form, right? A couple of things happen. So, we know that the data gets sent, right? We saw that happen. But before the data gets sent, your form does something called broadcasts an event, right? And we'll get to that in a second. So, the submit event is broadcast on the form element. You can subscribe to that event and handle it with a function. This should make no sense to you right now. Does it make no sense? Like, this makes no sense, right? It shouldn't make much sense. A little bit? Like nothing, right? Okay, good. It shouldn't. Hopefully, like, my goal is I want this to make sense. All right, so next. So events, right? We all love events, right? Who likes events? I love events. Wine, cheese, really bad art, whatever. So in the beginning, there was polling, right? So like it's fun to like kind of think back to the way things were and to try to realize like how we used to do things versus how we do things now, right? Like there's a reason why we do things the way we do. It's because we tried other ways and they were just bad. So let's say you have a really simple interface, right? Like in an old school joystick, right? It's got one button, right? So how do you know when that button gets pressed, right? How do you know? So in the beginning, you would basically just check. You would repeatedly check every few milliseconds, right? Be like, is the button pressed? No. Is the button pressed? No. Is the button pressed? No. You're just like an annoying 5-year-old, just constantly asking the same question over and over again. That's just crazy. So that whole paradigm, you could maybe see how that would be annoying, right? Having to check the same thing every millisecond. So events kind of change it to being a more reactive paradigm. So with events, you do something called subscribe to them, right? Or you could events. Let's pull back. You subscribe to an event, meaning, like when your phone rings, what do you do? Yeah, you answer it. I mean, me, I just look at it, right? And then maybe I answer it. But either way, it's almost like I have like internally, I have subscribed. I've registered a handler to that noise. Like that beeping sound is an event, right? And you respond to that event by taking some sort of action. And that's kind of how events work in JavaScript. There's an event that fires, and then you do something based off the event. So instead of asking if it happened, you just you basically set up something saying, every time the phone rings, I'm going to look at it. And then when the phone rings, you look at it. So that process would be called subscribing to an event, or you can also say registering a handler, which is a more like technical way of describing it, right? So you might have an event like if, say, anytime somebody clicks, do this, right? So instead of checking every 5 milliseconds, did they click, did they click, did they click, you just set up you set up an event handler, and this executes what happens. So a couple ways to say this, right? I think terminology is really important, right? Add event listener is subscribing to the click event. It's like a magazine subscription, right? Like every time this happens, I get something. So every time someone clicks, I execute this function. That's an event right there. Let's see this actually work. I think that's important. Oops, not like that. Oops, broke it. Oh, look, it's already there. Oh, man, cool. All right. I don't even need this. I was already doing this before. Okay, so I'm gonna run this, right? So here's my actual HTML page. So I have to click in there for anything to happen. Let's just see. You see that happen? So you clicked over here, click. And if I do it again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's just the same thing happening over and over again. Because every time I click, something happens here. And this, so there's like so many ways, there's a lot of different ways to say this. I think it's important to understand all of them. So we have bound an event to the click, we've bound a handler to the click event. Click event. Click is an event, right? When someone clicks, this function executes. Now, if you remember, you can kind of do your functions, you can either pass them in like this anonymously, or you can be a little more explicit. Wait. Yeah, so that works. Either way, those are both the same thing, right? This is the click handler, this is the event, and this is subscribing. Okay, so let's go back to that slide again and see if it actually makes sense now. So when a form is submitted, the submit event, special type of event, what event did we just look at 5 seconds ago? We just looked at an event, like literally 5 seconds ago. Was it smack someone in the face, kick a puppy, break a leg, smash a TV, jump off a cliff? Click! Right? Is that what you said, or did you just say something else? Click, click, yeah. We just looked at the click event, right? Remember that? I mean, remember that? Click. That's the click event. So when a form gets submitted, it fires something called the submit event, right? So we'll see how that works in a second. I think the concept of like events, important, right? when you do something, something happens. When I click here, click fires. Like, I didn't make this up. This is a built-in event, right? And there's a bunch of built-in events. I think there's one for double click. Let's see. I don't know. I might have made that up. Oh yeah. So wait, so watch that. Click once, nothing. Click again, nothing. Click once, nothing. Now I'm gonna double click, right? And that happened. Double click. I mean, I don't know, why didn't they use the O, the U, and the E? Whatever. Double click. I'm sure there's a list of handy events somewhere. List of events that you could look at somewhere. These are not the ones. Whatever. Who cares? Trust me. We'll look at it. We're going to look at other ways of looking at events too, anyway. So don't get too caught up on that. But this, I think, is super important. So when a form is submitted, the submit event is broadcast on the form element. Okay, and then you can subscribe to this event and handle it with a function. Hopefully that makes sense. I want to talk a little bit about the submit event being broadcast on the form element. Okay, we use the word broadcast. Sometimes you'll hear the word emitted, broadcast. I'm trying to think if there's any other word. That's really the two main ones you hear. So, all right. Where is my double click event being broadcast? What's that?
Window.
What you said window, what did you say? Server. No. Window. It's window. Yeah. There's window. You know what it is. It's what it is. Yeah. This is happening on the window. So if you remember, like the window is an element. It's like kind of a pseudo element. Like you can't actually see it, but it's really there. So, all right. What if we want to have like? What if we want to broadcast this on something a little more real, right? Let's create a button, right? Button hello. This button's gonna be called hello. Let's run it. Cool. Actually, let's give it an ID. And we do this. Var hello equals. And let's add this to that, right? I think that works. Yeah. So I should be able to click this. And it didn't work at all. Oh, why? Why didn't it? Oh, because it's double click. Sorry. Yeah. Let's put it back to click so I don't confuse myself again. God, idiot. All right. So click this. Now what happens if I click out here? Nothing, right? Because I have bound this event to this element. Hello, which is, get element by ID, right? Are you tracking? Is this making sense? I will over-explain this because there's a lot of subtle words like broadcast, subscribe, handler, right? All these words kind of fit together though, because you broadcast this event, this handler handles the event, and you're broadcasting it to this element. Does that make sense? Cool, great. We'll talk about propagation later. For now, I think we got that though. I think we got that. I'm feeling pretty good. We already did that. You understand this sentence, hopefully. We did this. Okay, so there's also, remember, we also have jQuery, right? jQuery makes a lot of this stuff easier. So you could also do this or this. Let's copy both of these and see what they look like. Events. This is how you like really do stuff in JavaScript. We need to load jQuery over here. Let's do that one. Cool. All right, let's comment all this stuff out. Is this actually going to work? I haven't even tried it. Yeah, okay, cool. So hopefully this syntax makes some sense here, right? We don't have to put this as a string because remember, window is an object, right? We could also have document in here or whatever. So we're saying anytime you click on the window, you clicked. Let's say I want to bind it to this button here. I think you guys know this already, so I'm not going to like ask a bunch of times, but that's how you would do it, right? Oopsie. There we go. Notice I have the event bound 2 times, right? I bound it here and I bound it here. So when I click, I get 2. I don't know why you would do that, but you could do it. Notice that there's 2 different syntaxes for this, right? You could either do the collection dot click and then pass in a function. This syntax, by the way, it's going to take you a while to get used to writing this because, you know, I mean, it really looks like this, right? Like that's the basic form of it, right? So you're saying, hello, when you are clicked, do that, right? And so we just put a function inside of there. And once again, you can do this in the You could do this in the handler syntax as well. You could say, oh wait, I already have a function called handle click. Right? That should work too. Let's kill this because it's starting to get crazy. And I should get my dual. Yeah, that worked. Cool. Great. Another way to do this in jQuery is you can use the on function. And it goes on, click, function. Basically, when you use this form here, it's really just a shortcut. And it like internally, it's actually calling this function. So I don't know. This might be marginally faster to run, the on version. The other reason that you see this form used a lot is that, like, so there are built-in events, right? Like you've got click, double click, mouse over, mouse down, right? Like mouse over. Oops. Right? I'm not clicking, right? I'm just mouse overing, right? Hovering, and it's doing that. If you use this syntax right here, it's a little easier to make, like, you might want to make this a variable, right? Like, let's say my event equals mouse over, right? So maybe in your application you want to pull this event out so that maybe a user could supply their own event, or you can also, you don't have to use, like these are built in, right? It's a built-in event. But you can also create your own events. You could have an event like when a user clicks 3 times, moves their mouse to the right, and like breaks something, do this event. So this syntax can be a little more flexible. Personally, I kind of use both. Like I use if I'm doing something quick. If I'm doing a larger application, I'll try to use the on syntax just because it's more flexible and it's a little faster. But that's the guts of doing this in jQuery. And now, always remember, you've got awesome documentation. You can just go here and see a bunch of different things. There's click. There's double click. Die? What? I don't really know that one. Focus. Focus is like when you, like you know when you click on a form element on like an input, that's called focusing, right? And then it's focus in, focus out, hover. I'm not sure how that's different. I'm not sure. Oh, key down, key press, pretty cool. Mouse down, mouse enter, mouse leave. Yeah, there's just a bunch of different events for doing stuff, and these are pretty helpful. So yeah, review that. Okay, so there's one other important part of an event. So let's say you got a click event, right? like that's cool and all, but like what if you don't even know like, what button did they click with? Like some mice have like 3 buttons, or like were they holding a modifier key when they did it? What position was the mouse? These are all data points you can get from spelling error. You can get from something called an event object. Let's look at the event object. So what happens here is that your click handler, let's just get rid of this last one here because we don't really need it anymore. So, oh wow, sorry, 20. This function, the handler, when it gets executed, it receives a parameter. What does that mean? It receives a parameter here. There's actually a variable that comes into here. So let's, by convention, you see it a lot of times called E or called EVT. Either one, doesn't really matter. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it frogs. It really doesn't matter. And this object, let's just see what's inside of it. Right? I'll run this, click, bam. An event. And what's on here? What do we got? Alt key, bubbles, button, cancelable, the X and the Y. That's like the X and Y coordinate of your mouse when you clicked it. Which, if you think about that, like if you were to have a click event on like a really big thing, you could say like, oh, if I know the X and the Y coordinate where they clicked, I could like put something there, right? Or I could, if I clicked 3 times, I could maybe draw lines between them or whatever. Or I could do other things with this data, right? There's a lot of different information that gets sent here. Offset is like, I think that's, I can't remember, there's documentation for all of this, like it's all documented on other places. Like, what did Einstein say? It was something like, don't commit to memory stuff that you can easily look up in a book or on the internet. I don't think he said internet because they didn't have that yet. But this stuff here. So what, like one use case that I could think of, it's a little contrived, but let's say we want to see if the user had their shift key held down while they clicked, right? Shift key, yeah, right. So shift key is false, so I didn't have my shift key pressed, I guess. But like, I don't want to have to blow through this entire object every time I do this though, because it's kind of crazy. So what I can do is I can just reference EVT dot shift key, right? Because this is just an object like anything else. And how do we access members of an object? Like this. How else could we do that? Oh, about to get pedantic. We could do that, right? Could we do this? No. No. Okay, whatever. All right, so let's see what this does. Let's run it. Let's kill this first. Run it. Click. False. 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 True. True. Oh my God. Amazing. I know this is like not the most exciting example of this, but the point is that when an event is fired, you get an object with more data, and you can do stuff with that data. So like one thing you see a lot is there's scroll, right? Scroll happens a lot. So let's say instead of on click, let's do on scroll. Wait, why would you do that on a button? Let's just do it on document. Oopsie. What is it? Ah, shit. I don't remember. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll. Oopsie. Oh, I don't think there's anything to actually scroll. Oh, it has to be... Really? Even if there's nothing there? Oh, shit. I have to actually have something scroll. Okay. Sorry. This is a contrived example. Whoa. What did I do wrong? What have I done? Wait, what did I do? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Is there not actually a scroll function? Did I make that up? Shit. Sorry. What did I do wrong? Can anybody tell me what I did wrong? Or am I just going to sit here like an idiot? Did I not run it? No, I clearly ran it. Wrapper dot scroll. 1 second. Huh? I don't know, man. That is just bizarre. Is it like a jQuery version? No. Sorry, everybody. I just totally failed on that one. I mean, I haven't really failed that many times on these examples. You have to realize a lot of these, I'm just coming up with on the spot. Man, if anybody can tell me why that doesn't work. Is it because there's nothing in it? Dude, that's crazy. Why doesn't this work? Why doesn't this work? Anybody?
Is this supposed to scroll down? Do you need more than one line?
I don't know. Height. Oh, wait. Wait, let's do this. Okay, I think we're onto something. Yeah, I'm an idiot. It's not scrolling. Let's make it height 20 pixels. How about that? And I'll have like a lot more.
No,
Okay, you see, it wasn't scrolling because I didn't have enough stuff in it. Smart, good job. All right, let's make it not 20. How about 200? And let's give it a background so I can actually. I love white smoke. You guys, I quit smoking. What? I'm like really proud of that. Thank you. It was like 18 years. All right. Yeah, cool. So this, now it's working. So, okay, cool. What is that doing for me though? Like what am I really getting out of this? Run it. Oh, shit. Well, I mean, every time I scroll, it's like firing something. So you can see, if I open this up, what do I got? Which one of these? Which one of these has it? Target? Oh God, I don't even know. Oh Lord. So much information. This was a bad example. This is a bad example. I thought this was going to be cooler than it is. Yeah, there's data here. You can do stuff with it. The original event? This is boring. I'm over it. Anyway, yeah, you learn a new event. Scroll. You can attach things to scroll. Right? That's how like a lot of those like one-page website things work. Is they're just binding to scroll and doing something when the scroll happens. So, yeah. So we just fired off a lot of events here. More. Okay, that was stupid. Where was I? Handlers. Event handlers have information to them. Net. All right, we got like 10 minutes. I think we can fly through these. Propagation is an interesting thing. So, do you guys know what the word propagate means, Shelly?
Multiply, kind of,
Sort of. Like, Can you translate that?
I don't even know how to explain it in English.
I love putting you on the spot like that. It's amazing. I don't even know if I can explain propagation. It's basically like, are you looking up? Is there a word for it? It's like, I don't even know. So, I mean, propagating is really, it's when something kind of goes from one state to another, right? Like ideas propagate, right? An idea can propagate from like one student to the next, or from a teacher to a student to another person, right? So events kind of do the same thing, but they do it in a much more kind of predictable way, right? So the way events propagate, this example was just a total waste of everybody's time. But sorry, guys, they're not all winners. I mean, they're good. Okay, so we have this example here of, I need to bind something here. Let me get rid of this. This is just a joke. Okay, run. All right. Oh, can I just use jQuery? God, forget this. You see how much easier it is to use jQuery than typing out document.getElementById? Like, it's ridiculous. Okay, so I'm going to bind a click event to this thing. Oopsie. All right, it works. So when I say this propagates, when an event propagates, it means that it goes from where it was originally fired, right? Which in this case is the button element, up to every DOM node until it hits to window, right? All the way up. So if you look at this, button is inside of body, which is inside of HTML, which, as we know, is inside of document, which is part of window, right? So if let's say I put this button inside of a wrapper, right? I'm going to use my standard wrapper syntax. Right? Okay. And I'm going to do kind of a similar thing here. I'm going to do let's do this. And let's just see what happens here so you can kind of understand how propagation works, right? So I have a button inside a wrapper. I'm going to click on this button. I have two handlers bound, one to button, one to wrapper. The order doesn't matter, okay? So let's click it and see what happens. So button and wrapper, both of these clicked, right? Because what happens is the event propagated. It propagates all the way from, where is it? Where are you? It goes from, first it fires on button, then it fires on wrapper, then it fires on body, then it fires all the way up to the top. So like if I have a click event on window, you'll see it fire, right? Because it's just propagating all the way to the top. Right? That's propagation. Does that make sense? Now, it doesn't just propagate to everything, right? Like if I have this here, yeah. Where is it? I don't even see it. Do you see it? Oh, because I didn't close that. Okay. So I'm gonna bind this now. Now, what's gonna is this gonna fire? Oh, sorry. Is other gonna fire when I click on button? Is it going to propagate to this? Yes or no? No. Why do you say no?
It's not on the tree.
Right. It's not in the same tree as the button. So when I click this, yeah, you don't see this fire. If I click this, it fires, right? Oh, it's saying window. It should say other. But notice how window's firing too, right? Because it's propagating up to window. Because window is a parent of everything, right? Window's always, if you bind something, it's always going to bubble up. It's called bubbling, right? It's going to propagate, bubble its way up to window. So we don't always want this to happen, right? Like you might have a click event on window, but you don't want it to fire every time you do a button, right? So there's a really simple way to do this, and it's called, we have to use our event, right? We use our event, and we say stop propagation. That's a command, right? So let's test this out, see if it works. Let's kill this. Worked, right? None of that other stuff fired. None of the handler on wrapper didn't fire. The handler on window didn't fire. Just that. Now when I click this, it's still firing this and this because it's still propagating. So that's event propagation. It's an interesting thing to remember though, because a lot of times you'll have like this massive DOM tree of all these nodes, and if you bind your events wrong, you can sometimes be listening for events that happen deep in the tree. So it's important to like not let everything propagate out. But sometimes you want them to propagate, right? Yeah, that's propagation. Another thing I'm gonna go over real quick is default actions. So right, my favorite. So now, whoops. God, it's so hard to type that. Okay. So when I click on, like, what happens when you click on a link, right? Your browser just goes to that page, correct? So you don't always want that though. Sometimes you want to click a link, maybe update a database, send an email, update your Twitter, friend somebody on Facebook, like all in the background, right? And then go to the page, right? So in this case, I can do, well, there's two ways to do this, right? One way is, it's kind of similar to propagating. You can do prevent default. The default behavior for clicking a link is to go to that link. You can prevent that by just doing this, event prevent default. You can also just return false. That works too. But this is like kind of the cleaner way to do it. So now, instead, what did he just do? Wait, Oprah. Wait, where's Oprah? Oh, I didn't write. Whoopsie. Yeah, cool. So let's try this. Yeah. And see, once again, it's not going to the link because I've swallowed it here. You see this technique, yeah, this is used a lot, this prevent default, for like AJAX, which is when you basically are getting data in the background and sending it instead of refreshing the whole page. This is pretty important to that. So that's just enough about propagation and oh yeah, we didn't even actually go over the submit handler. I don't think we have time for it, but hopefully by now this looks somewhat familiar, right? Like when you hit the submit button on a form, you can actually, yeah, let me just fly through this real quick. Oh shit. Wait, I wanna we don't have jQuery, do we? Max CDN. Nope. I want to get jQuery on it. Real quick. Ugh, this thing again. So bad. Well, sorry. Wait, where is it? Hosted libraries. This shouldn't be this hard. Sorry. jQuery 2x that one. Bam. Okay, there, we've got it. Now, down here, let's do it. Bam. Form. On. Submit. Handler. Remember, we have an event object that we can use. How do I prevent the form from actually submitting? Prevent default, yes. Except spell it right. And then save it, go to it, okay, and damn it. Oopsie. Okay, now remember, we got it. Worked. And notice, I'm gonna do a get request. Remember how in the get, when you do the get, it appends the variables to the end, right? Notice how it's not doing that anymore because we prevented that. That's the default behavior that we prevented. It's not reloading the page anymore. So basically, we could have a form that is sending data to a server, getting a response, returning it back, and then we can display stuff now, which is nice. So that's how a lot of like modern like one-page web apps work, where you'll submit something and instead of reloading the whole page, it'll prevent that and do stuff, right? Send your credentials, get them back, and then this happens. So that's form handling. And we're kind of at the end of time. Example, didn't get to the example. We'll get to the example next time. Let's go to the assignment. This assignment is going to be really easy, mostly because I still have to like grade a lot of your old assignments, or not grade them, but like tell you what you did right or wrong about them. It's like kind of part of what I'm supposed to do. So if I haven't responded to you and you sent an email, it's not because I don't like you. It's just because I didn't have the time to really respond the way I wanted to. So I will get caught up on everybody though. If I don't this week, remind me because I probably did forget. So the assignment though is right now we're in what, week 10, right? And so we have like 5 more weeks of being together. Wait, who here is taking the second semester? Anybody? You thinking about it? Maybe. Just hey, no rush, no pressure. It's all good. Yeah. Okay. So whatever. We'll learn more stuff. But I basically want you to pitch me your idea for a final project. Right. I feel like at this point, we've learned some stuff. We haven't learned a lot though. Like no one here has set up. We haven't done anything on a server yet. Right. Like we haven't set up a real server. Which is probably like the missing link of what we need to do. I'm debating doing that next time. I might want to do one more JavaScript or jQuery thing and then do that. But we can kind of freestyle that. What's the interest level on doing something like setting up a server? Do you guys want to do that? Do you want like, I mean, not like setting up a server. Like no one here is trying to be like a server guy or gal, whatever, like server person. But like I feel like it'd be helpful to at least know like how to have a publicly available website, right? Okay, so I'll get that moving, and maybe we can we'll do a brief thing on that because it would make sense for your projects to live on like a URL, right? Cool. Okay, so basically, I want you to like come up with an idea, like a pitch, right? And pitch me this idea. It should be kind of ambitious. Like I would rather you do something ambitious and like fail miserably at it than do something super easy and just nail it because that's boring and I know you can do better. So yeah, I want like put some thought into this. Like don't just like whatever thing. Like actually think about this a little bit. And once again, don't be biased by anything I've said. If you want to do your own personal website, go for it. That's awesome. If you want to like play with a library, like whether it's jQuery or one of these plugins we looked at, or like, I don't know. We were playing with Three.js the other day, which is pretty cool. That really you can do whatever. If you need help with this, reach out to me. I know nobody will, but I'll say that anyway. Like, I'm available whenever. Just send me an email anytime. So yeah, if you need help, let me know. Otherwise, yeah, just send it in. Email is fine. And if you haven't sent in the homework from this week, then what's wrong with you? Seriously, what's wrong with you? Get your act together. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm not even going to say any questions because no one ever has questions. Class dismissed. It's so sad, right? Thank you if you subscribed to the YouTube channel. And if you didn't, whatever to you. I don't need you anyway.